This split has been the most transactions, I think. The most transactions in this split, more than I bet several years. I bet that's something that's that probably could get looked up. I'm sure someone in the chat can help us out there. LS is gonna hit us with the what is the name of the GIF? The photo. Oh.
The LSXY.
LSXYZ GIF. Yeah.
Oh, it is LSXYZ GIF. He's on the LSXYZ JPEG for today, y'all. Because he's at the PC Bong. And so deal with it. Dom here, though, he's ready to go, and I'm sure has a ton of takes on what was an eventful week 4 of the LCS. Yeah, man, this is a hell of a week here. So here we go. Facecheck episode 22 of season 3, breaking down what was week 4. The title is gonna get updated. It's getting updated, y'all. Relax. We've got ourselves some clear-cut top 2, a clear-cut, I guess, next 2, and then a jumble after that, as Evil Geniuses are 16-4. Hopefully we can get that fixed. They're 16-14. Dignitas is going the wrong direction after 1-2. Only one win in their last, I think, 9 games, 8 or 9 games there. And then Immortals, and they hit it on the broadcast desk pretty well. They were 7-5 coming into yesterday's match, or something of that nature. 8-5. They had won 5 in a row and have been one of the best teams of summer, sitting in 7th and cruising on up. CLG has been solved. Press R comps are not good into Karma Braum, Xinjiao, Flyquest. They tried to hit it with the substitutes, and Golden Gamers are able to pick up a win against Flyquest. That was the week. We're done. Dom, what'd you make of week number 4 here in the LCS?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been to me, honestly, it was more exciting to see the drama throughout the week and all the teams than the actual game. So I was pretty excited to to see who was going to get kicked on which days, who was going to get benched, and then even more importantly, I just love seeing the orgs try to release statements, because they're so afraid to portray anyone in a negative light that every statement is just the most cringeworthy thing to read possible.
Yeah.
Ellis,
I mean,
all the changes of the week.
I pretty much thought that the statement that Dignitas came out with, I quote retweeted it. I got into some arguments with some really interesting people in the comments to those threads. But basically, I thought that video was deplorable. I think it causes more problems than people actually realize. I don't know. There's also this problem where whoever speaks first just has an unholy edge, it seems like, right? Unless something is going to happen behind the scenes that might, rectify what's going on or something. But yeah, I agree with Dom that all of the things that happened in the last week and a half, etc., I think is just far more interesting than the gameplay itself, because the region is on fire.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the statement that they made about Dardoch. It was brutally short and one-sided, and I think unless you have a ton of evidence contrary to what the original statement says, I agree with LS. It is just very, very difficult to act second unless you're gonna blow up the roster. I'm scrolling through. I can't seem to find the statement. It looks like they might have deleted it. The Dardoch has left the organization. I think we should start there in terms of the benchings and statement. And there was conversations that were being had about how teams have been positioning these moves. I would say that Evil Genius's move to Contractz, Peter Dunn gave a full statement there, hey, he's been playing well. We had this planned out beforehand, and we're going to give him a game. And they stuck to the plan. All that made sense. Cloud9 didn't put anything out about Zven. Flyquest saying hard work pays off for the academy squad, which I don't mind. I don't mind that. But did what does the ideal statement look like? What should teams say in your opinion, LS?
I mean, I think it depends on what's actually happening, right? I think there's always going to be a balance. I think that through the language that they use in the video, they allude to something that must be heinous in nature, right? So if it's actually, yeah, sure. They allude to it. No?
Yeah, no,
What?
I was just making fun of the pronunciation.
Oh, okay.
Heinous.
So, all right. Well, I mean, so basically, it's definitely bizarre where if you're willing to say that, which then is gonna cause speculation to run wild, and a lot of people can just make up narratives almost, right? Where they can invent things that never happened and then attack it as a possibility. It seems like if it was so strong that it allowed you to invoke termination rights within the contract and then go and make this video, you probably should have just said what it was. Because otherwise, it feels like this video is, like we already just mentioned, whoever talks first wins. It's sort of like one of the natures of this industry. And it seems like we're getting like this, we're coming up on the eve of the cancel month that was last year, right? Where so many big people got hit. And it just feels like right now in LoL Esports, there's so many people just being targeted with a lot of malicious comments and accusations and claims and all this other stuff, and rumors and everything is just running wild. So, I mean, I felt like the video, if he actually did something that egregious, probably should have just said what it actually was. Because the fallout is unironically worse. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the main thing is you have to say something in your fucking statement if you're like gonna make a big change like that. Like Dardoch was either the best or the second best player on Dignitas up to this point. I think he's probably the best, but you can make an argument for Neo. Neo's performed pretty well himself, right? And if you're gonna remove like you benched him after Friday's match last week, and then you instantly kick him off the team, like that is such a crazy decision to make with one of your absolute stars. Like I feel like you owe it to your fans to explain why this was necessary. Like if he did something that bad, then I don't understand why they're still trying to like protect Dardoch if like he wronged them in such a way. And I think it just makes like the org look like weird, or like, you know, then people start questioning if it's a problem with the org, and like, and this is a take I saw, is it a problem with their ability to manage? Because you have a player like Dardoch coming in, you know what you're getting to some degree. I mean, you expect he's not going to be the most like calm, level-headed individual in the world, based on his track record. And then you take him in, and apparently one thing happens, and you instantly kick him, because there was no like rumors in the community. There was nothing that suggested like he wasn't getting benched before. He didn't have to like take a game off here or there. There was nothing that suggested that he was like having any issues within Dignitas. So then to immediately remove him, I feel like it requires like some type of like, I don't know, some type of statement to the community that at least hints at like what type of things happened. Was it just like a verbal blow up? Did he do something potentially physical? Like the problem is when you don't say anything, people just will assume like that it's even worse than what it potentially is. So you could be, by trying to like protect his image or something, you could be even doing him more harm. So yeah, right. I mean, I just think that there's like there needs to be some level of like reasoning out there in the community. And yeah, it just feels like they just didn't accomplish that. So now everyone just looks at them as like a clown org.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
And just for context here, additional context here, Nick Jersey, who's one of the one of the lead writers over at VENN, hit us with a quote from Acadian. This is from Acadian, who has been in this situation before with Dardoch. Acadian says, people can say anything they want about Dardoch's attitude issues or the reasons he's not playing anymore. What people cannot do is take away the pure fact that Dardoch is a leader. He can rally people around him, control games, and he's definitely talented. I don't think you can ever take that away. Regardless of what anyone can say about how he does it, he does do it. So you can read more of that article over at MN Global. But it is interesting to me how players are defending players, right? People are, covering for each other. And it was the same thing over with the benching and now this 6-man roster moving forward for Alfari in the top lane. Anytime you talk to a top laner, they're like, yeah, Alfari is one of the best. I don't know what's happening over there. And it feels kind of weird that, he's being benched, whether it was Finn. I got to chat with Finn last week, got to chat with Fudge after their loss this weekend. And they all said the same thing, where it's just like, yeah, I mean, I know the player seems to be, is one of the best. And it is, there's a lot of defending of players compared to the systems in which they're playing under. And specifically under Dignitas, this is the same leadership. This is the same GM that signed Huni to the contract that he did not want to be signed to, and Huni was underperforming. And then they move on, and he goes over to a TSM, right? So,
yeah,
I don't have a lot of goodwill built up for this organization already. And then to see how this was handled, given the fact that, again, we didn't even hear anything about Saligo. Like, Saligo got benched from this roster as well for Yasui.
And then what we heard it didn't make sense. Because I heard the statement that, like, I think Bakery went on like Double F stream, and I saw it on one of these like clips channels, and he was like, "Oh, we thought that what Saligo needed was more games, and since Academy plays more games than LCS, like, then he could work out his issues. Whereas, Yasui just needed a higher level of like players to play against." But it's like, I mean, why would more games against weaker competition allow Saligo to work on his issues? Because it seemed from watching it that his issues were laning against top tier players. Like, he was just simply losing lanes into top tier players. But I don't think that, like, when you put him down to like lower competition, I don't feel like players are going to be putting him in the same situation. So even if he's getting like more official games in lane phase, it's not like he's getting more official games of lane phase against the players that were like stomping him in lane. You're getting more games against people that are probably not punishing you. So I don't even think that he's going to improve from that situation. I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me.
I agree. Yeah, it seems like Dignitas' dysfunction junction.
Yeah. Chad also brought up a good point. They also had the social media gaffes as well. Whoever was running their social. So it's just like, top down, this is other than the statement that I think at the beginning of the year, Michael Prinville, right? Is that who the CEO or head of Dignitas was? He's like, yeah, we're building around Afro and Dardoch. People might have said whatever, but just wait until you see. And then that was cool. I was like, all right, cool. Dignitas has some edge to it and has something moving forward. But after that, it's just been not great on the LCS front. Love what they're doing with the commercial stuff.
Also, realistically, you just look at the situation. It's like they were so lucky to be 14-9. Like, it was a godsend that this group of players was able to be 14-9 in LCS. So you should be doing whatever you can to keep things as harmonious as possible, because any other iteration of your roster, like, I mean, you're dealing with a team that should be 9th place, right? Any other iteration is going to be presumably way worse than what you already had. So why are you going to change players like at random? Why are you going to do anything to fuck up what's working for you when you had results that exceeded what the expectations for your team were so much?
Yeah. Agree with this. Agree.
Again, just with Afro on that team, Afro and Neo performing as well as they can, to just hopefully Dignitas can figure it out for their own sake. Currently sitting in 6th place at 15-15. I want to take a second to chat about Immortals. Again, before that loss, they were on a 4-game winning streak. They are 7-5, which has them tied for the 3rd best record in summer. Tied with one Team Liquid, who also lost their last game, so they could have passed each other behind TSM and 100 Thieves. And Immortals seems to have found something that worked. They did have a roster swap that was pretty very clear what it was. It was like, Pretty's coming in because he's playing well. We're giving him a reward. I don't know why you move off of one of your most crucial pieces in Insanity.
How about you give him like a steak dinner or something as a reward? Or maybe like I don't know, like maybe you take him out to Disneyland. Like what are we doing, man? Like how is that a reward? Like I mean, if you think that he's like he's shown enough potential to play and compete for the spot against Insanity and like make the team better, then sure, give him a chance. But like I don't understand the idea of like, oh, you've been playing well in academy, so like your reward is gonna be losing us an LCS game. Like
Yeah.
what the fuck? It doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah. It literally makes no sense. I mean, I think the only way that phrasing or wording makes any sense is if you actually think that all 10 players are like a family, and that Insanity has no problem like just letting Pretty like go and play in his place. But the other thing about Immortals is that their 4-game win streak outside of Cloud9, they just beat up on the bottom of the standing teams, or teams that they were expected to win against. If you look at their 4 games before that, as well as their most recent one, it's all expected losses.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they had close game versus TSM though. Like they could have won that. Like that was something
that is true. That is true. Yeah, I feel like that says a little bit more about TSM though than Immortals, right? So I think even though they did have the 4-week or the 4-win streak, I think the context of the schedule that Riot has given is really beneficial for them. Like for instance, right now, in LCK or something, right? T1, they have like in theory 3 easy opponents or in a row, right? So if they go on a 3-game win streak, it doesn't say anything relative to how they're actually performing against like top teams. I'm just gonna use T1 as a reference so no one fucking accuses me of bias or some bullshit. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, NS was supposed to be an easy win for them too, though. So who knows?
The wins at 100 Thieves, Immortals has gotten that are quote unquote impressive have been over 100 Thieves, the close game against TSM, and then over Cloud9 in that run. So it feels like they've been able to insert themselves in the conversation. Next week, they play Cloud9, TSM, and Dignitas. So definitely 2 prove-it games there for them as they, again, try to navigate after this loss and continue the streaks of beating teams that are better than them. I guess, let's see, what were some other moves? Oh, another move that happened here on Sunday. Sunday's matches, Flyquest swap in 3 players into their starting roster. Flyquest go with Kumo in the top lane, Tomo at the AD carry role, and Diamond back in, replacing Dreams, who replaced him earlier. And they had a lead against the Golden Gamers as Golden Guardians were able to battle back and take a win, closing off another tough week for Flyquest on a 7-game losing streak, the longest losing streak of the split. When it comes to Flyquest's move, what did you make of that one, Dom?
I mean, I just feel like this team, I don't know, like either the players are just not intelligent enough to understand what the coach is trying to instill, or the coach is just not doing anything with the roster, because there's no like discernible difference between Flyquest now and Flyquest of literally like week 1 of LCS. Like they don't do, they haven't improved at all. And it feels like they just play a different style every game too. So it's not even like they have like some consistent identity that they can like improve upon. And then when you look at all the players, and you look at the team and you think about what would you want to do when you have this type of roster of players? Like what would be your mentality? Like what are your strengths and who do you want to like play around? It like half the drafts don't make sense either. Like you have this potential like star jungler and Jose Diodo, obviously somebody who's really like mechanically gifted for the most part, and then you have drafts where he's like on Sejuani, and then the next game he'll be on like a carry, and bot lane will be playing like some all-in lane where it's like are they like supposed to be like your stable part? Then they do like these drafts where they have to use prio, so instead of like streamlining things, making things easier for the players if they're struggling with making decision making, or they're struggling with their decision making, they end up doing like this Kindred comp where it's like, okay, well, if you're running like a Kindred comp, you're going to need to and you're running like prio mid and things like that, you're going to need to try to invade with the prio and like do a lot of things that are difficult for a team that is struggling and like it's not working together well. So when I look at this team, I just feel like it just seems poorly coached. I mean, obviously you can never know what a coach is doing. Maybe the coach is doing all the right things. He's breaking things down, making it super easy for the players. And the players just are bad. And they just have no clue what he's saying means, and they aren't able to apply it in game. But when I look from the outside, I'm like, this team just looks like 5 solo queue players. Like, it literally just looks like they're playing solo queue. You go watch their pro views, there's like one timer every like 10 minutes in the chat, and it's like a flash, and it's not even like even close to accurately timed. It's not even considering like lucidity boots or like cosmic insight or any of that. It's literally just like, yeah, I mean, this guy flashed around like 21:30, fuck it, and they just like throw it in the chat once and that's it. It's solo queue out there.
We on Fridays, media does scrum interviews where they pick a role and then the players of that role after their game just it looks like it's like professional media post game coverage where they sit at the mic and people ask them questions. And so they this week was bot lane. We had Flyquest come in, and so Johnson comes through, and I asked him, was like, hey, last year you were Dom's boy, you're Dom's pick, you're coming in, you're dominating. What's going on this year? What's changed? And he said, he alluded to this. He said, there's a lot of leadership that Afro used to guide with the team. And then in Flyquest, although they do have leaders, I assume that's Palafox and maybe himself.
No, they don't have leaders.
It's not always consistent when they are lost or confused. So maybe when things going right, it's easy. But when the plan goes away, that's what he said. That was
yeah, because he's not gonna say he's not gonna be like, yeah, I mean, we just have like a bunch of people on our team that have no clue what the fuck to do, which is actually what happens when you watch the games. Like, the only way you end up in these situations where you're just like 5v5 looking at each other, and like one guy's trying to go in and then they're like kiting back, like the other people are kiting back, and then they try to go in again. Like, anytime you end up in a situation like that, you know that it's because no one in the game on that team knows what to do or is able to make a decisive enough call so that the team is all on the same page. Like, everyone's just like, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm going to try to do, okay, it doesn't look like that's the thing. Maybe we can go control vision at Baron. It's like just a bunch of questions and there's no decision being made.
I mean, when it comes to Flyquest, whenever I watch their pro views, I mean, I think it's pretty rough for pretty much all of them, right? I've weighed in on like why I think Palafox probably performs really poorly and competitive compared to like whenever people cite his solo queue stints. But I mean, I agree with Dom on the sentiment that their gameplay does just look very, very solo queuey. Yeah, I mean, their pro views look very solo queuey. So, and then also pro view echoes the sentiment that, yeah, timers and stuff like that are not there as well. And it just seems like, yes, they are just sort of flopping about. But again, and I think this alludes to Dom's point about it does not seem apparent that there's any sort of, identity going on there, is that even a team like CLG, they can, you can sort of like tell that they're pre-planning like everything they do with their drafts, right? They're just forcing drafts without any regards to the opponent and the way that they go about the game. But at least they're united in something. Right, I'm not going to call it good because I don't think their drafts are good at all, but they're still united, okay? It's the thought that counts. So CLG is like the participation awards that you get at events, when there's like a competition, but everyone gets the same trophy and you wonder what the fuck, I finished first. But, CLG gets one of those trophies, but like Flyquest somehow manages to not even get the trophy.
Ellis was the guy who was like, I don't feel like I won unless I know that they lost. Like,
I
you should get a
remember
trophy.
Oh my god. There was in Little League, there was a mercy rule because my team, it was 22-0, and they called the game. They called the game in the third inning. I got so fucking angry.
He spazzed out. No, you could tell Ellis when he was a kid, was a little spaz. Like,
What position did you play? This is interesting to me.
Oh,
that's a star player, bro.
I could maybe. Well, I don't know. Last time I went back there in 2016, I still held some records at my city, like Little League Pal Ball. I still held some records. Very nice.
That's sick, dude.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I
had batting average.
Today I learned.
Yeah, there you go. I had batting average and I forget the exact number, but I had batting average and I had inside the park home runs. I had 36.
Yeah, because you're weak. You couldn't push the ball outside of the park.
I couldn't. I only ever got the ball over the. I only ever got the ball over the fence twice, but I had 36 inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fast, motherfucker,
11-year-old LS just styling on kids, making sure that everyone knew that he was better than them. Still proud of those city records. We'll check it out later. All right.
Mhm.
I think that let's there's one more team I wanted to hit on before we start diving with some of the heavy hitters this week, because I think Hunter Thieves, TSM, Cloud9, and TL all had some pretty big
Cloud9
moves.
still a heavy hitter, Copium.
Yeah, still in there, top four, man, top four. They'll be the number one seed of the lower bracket. CLG and their composition here. They struck gold last week, going 3-0. They found the press R engage composition type thing. This week they stuck to the plan, and it felt like on Friday it had been solved. It was Xin Zhao. It was Xin Zhao, Braum, Karma, I believe, was the composition that played against the hard engage thing. And each time CLG played this composition, it looked like they did have windows to execute, right? I feel like we've had this conversation a lot. It's like, hey, you can play optimally, or you can play a composition that has a narrower window to execute, but it's a small window. And each time CLG, got close, but there was like one or two mistakes where their comp you can play through it. What did you make of that, LS, as a former CLG guy, and also feeling strongly about draft and coming into a draft with a plan and then not pivoting?
It feels like it feels like CLG identified draft patterns that might be successful specifically in North America. If you look at a lot of their drafts, right, it's either hard CC or just guns for one person, then it tries to play like a numbers advantage. So it feels like they're just trying to prey upon the weakness that is NA. And I mean, like the Vi, the Vi picks, right? Generally, Vi is gonna gun just for the 80 carry. And I feel like 80 carries in North America are pretty weak. Like everything, they all just seem serviceable outside of, I guess, Zven. Even Zven almost seems like he's only serviceable at some points, right?
FBI. FBI has been pretty good this split.
I feel like no 80 carry is really, really standing out.
What about
and then
Ross,
the drop off?
Oh.
He's living up to his name. So I think. Oh no! Have you ever watched his pro view? He's definitely lost. He can only see his own screen. So, if something's happening, even a little bit too far above his champion, he probably can't see. So, I think that
he has a world-renowned shot caller in Sword Art that's able to communicate perfectly everything that's happening around him, so he doesn't need to look anymore. That's why they're such a good team. That's why they're 21-9, dominating the LCS.
That was the power of friendship.
Yeah, it's the power of friendship. It's broken. Hello, Dom.
What? What do you want from me, man? What do you want from me? Okay.
Tell me about the power of friendship. Tell me about it.
Look, honestly, if there is a team that looks like they're getting by on the power of friendship, it would be Immortals. Like, they're the team that actually looks like they genuinely like each other. And even though, if you look at the rosters, right, Immortals is one of the weakest rosters on paper. The reason that they're winning games is because it feels like they're actually a team. And they actually, are honest with themselves and know their strengths and weaknesses. That's such a concept in LCS that I feel like no one really thinks about. Like you look at Flyquest, they don't know who's good on that team. They don't know who's their carry point, what the person's carry point is good at. They don't draft in ways to enable that. At least Immortals has some type of identity, and even though the players are relatively mediocre, they're able to win some games. So power of friendship, that's all Immortals right there. Yeah, I don't know. When I'm looking, I guess to answer the CLG thing. I was actually surprised that teams like Immortals and like C9 were actually able to disengage and play a draft against it. I thought the team's adaptations would just be banning out Galio, Morgana, these types of picks, because essentially one thing that I noticed about LCS laners is that they're not really good enough to punish weak picks in lane outside of like a select few. So you can just get away with Rakan into matchups that, you know, other people would consider unplayable. We saw the same thing happen at the end of 2020. Going into Worlds, everyone was playing like Zanya's Rakan. It just, you know, it was the Biofrost special, and that's how people win games. So I'm actually surprised that you know, Immortals was able to draft like a Karma and play to disengage fights, and you know, C9 was actually able to survive the full-on bongo comp from CLG, because I just didn't think anyone had it in them. I thought the best solution was going to be to just ban out their strategy.
I mean, to compound. Oh, go.
No, go ahead.
No, okay, all right. Well, I can't see you, dGon. You know, I mean, all right. Don't make fun of me. All right, no. So okay, to compound on the comment about there's very few people that can punish like vulnerable laning champions in North America. I mean, that's totally true. I mean, just look at most pro views when it's like Renekton Viego or like Viego X, right? Go into any pro view. This is for like viewers or something, and just watch how passive and handshaked every single lane is. Jensen, like I can't watch Jensen on like Viego or anything anymore.
Lee Sin or anything, yeah.
Lee Sin or Viego, it is like he's there to just like farm, wait till 15 minutes, and then him and his team will just outplay the opponents. They'll go home. There's no gameplay going on. There's literally zero. You would be like more pressured by like I don't know. I forget what Nemesis actually said on stream or something. But like a master tier Korean player would pressure you more in lane and like make you fight for things more than like NA. They're just showing up to the lane with like their fucking fruit bowls and shit, and then they're just like handshaking the CS. They like recall at traditional timers. There's nothing going on. So you can get away with a murder picking champions like Lissandra inside of laning phase, something that should be able to get ass blasted, and then you can even take an atrocious rune on it and it won't matter. Oh, I'm getting looked at right now. I'm the only white guy in this PC bong speaking English right now.
Jesus. No, I mean, I was gonna say that playing in North America, from what we've seen this split, the person that you're most pressured by is actually not your lane opponent, it's your GM. That's what I've noticed. So yeah. You got to be worried about your fucking spot, because that motherfucker's coming for you.
All right.
Anyone?
Well,
Okay, no.
That was good. That was good. GMs are dangerous, and we got to be careful. Players stick together. One player that was able to make a change, and this change I don't think came from the GM. Actually, I don't know who the GM of Evil Genius is. Oh, it's Andy Barton. Peter Dunn makes this change, announces it. Contractz coming on in and having a one of the best re-debuts, like substitution, probably the best substitution of the split, coming in and lighting whoever they played on fire with Diana.
TSM.
It was a TSM on fire with Diana. I'm not gonna lie, I obviously big fan of definitely probably number one, maybe number two fan behind number one fan, definitely NA. But Contractz was my first interview when I joined LCS, and the first responsibility I had in Golden Guardians was pick him up from the Cloud9 house and be like, "Hey, dude, hope you're gonna enjoy our time here at Golden Guardians." So I've got to see Juan grow and the ups and downs after Golden Guardians, over 100 Thieves, and then over Evil Geniuses, and to see him succeed, and also just you could see what it meant to him in the post game interview where he said afterwards, it's just like, I've never had anything like that happen before. I just got all emotional about the journey. It was great to see, great to watch, and it proved it too, because he was the MVP of that game. He had the best performance out of anyone probably all week, and it was cool to see a player getting rewarded for that. What did you make of Contractz coming on in for the squad for EG, and then EG moving forward with a 6-man roster?
I personally thought it was like one of the best LCS games that I've watched the entire split from EG. Like, I think that might be the best game that I've seen the entire split when it comes to like how they actually played as a team. Like they did things that we just don't see in North America. A 315 dive, it wasn't clean by any like stretch, you know, like it wasn't the best dive where like the wave is crashing and the mid laner is like right there with the jungler as the wave is crashing and they're able to just like kill the guy and get out. It wasn't that clean. But even the idea to go for a play is a foreign concept in LCS. No one's able to like bring their mid laner, use a top laner that actually has advantage. And this is like why champions that are good in the first 3 levels actually can matter. Or why they're prioritized so highly around the world is because if you do have that lane control, it opens you up for, you know, dives like this. And, you know, this type of play will actually help North America get better because people will have to make the decision then, do we contest this 315 dive or do we try to make our own response dive on the other side of the map? Like, and, you know, like just being able to see a team do that and then like relatively clean engages from Contractz throughout the game. And if you think about the level of competition, I mean, they did this versus TSM. Jizuke suddenly like had a brain, like he just wasn't getting caught 24/7, which to me makes it seem like Contractz is offering some form of leadership. It looked like Jizuke was a different player in that game. Like he wasn't just running it down inside lanes. He was backing off at times before he was getting caught. So I was like super impressed with this performance. Like this was one of the best performances I've seen in the LCS from any player and then from any team as well. I think that he should literally just pretty much win the spot based off that until we see something further.
LS.
I mean, unfortunately, the Contractz sub in game. Contractz was actually he was in the LCK coach rooms all week, so it felt nice to see him. It felt nice to see the debut. Obviously, the emotional stuff on stage, I felt really bad watching that because I feel like there's so many players that probably have similar stories or feelings, and we just never really get to see them or talk, or no one never gets to really talk about it, right? And this is a byproduct of like the academy system and other stuff that's really just going on, as well as just like people being kept out of LCS that could play in LCS, right? So there's that. In terms of the actual game, that was on my forced off days now because of the schedules, so I did not see the game. However, Dom's talk about Jizuke does make me want to go back and just watch the pro view because I want to see if there's actually a very discernible difference in the gameplay. Because Jizuke just, I've talked about him a lot before, but I don't want to go on the tirade.
Yeah, I mean, and from things that I've heard, it's funny because this is like a veteran team, but the people that are controlling like the pace of the game and, you know, the ones that are calling for the most plays are supposed to be, at least in this game, Contractz and Danny. So I think that that's really interesting that like the new players coming in are the ones that are kind of like calling for most of the plays and leading the team in some respect. And yeah, I mean, I can definitely like see a lot of like the emotion. I wonder how much of the emotion comes from just pure frustration, because if you're a player like Contractz and like when he subbed into 100 Thieves in 2020, he had a relatively good performance on 100 Thieves. I think I had him like somewhere in the power rankings that we did last year around like 5th or 4th. So it's so weird when players like that end up being completely like shunned from LCS after one split where he performed well, and then it's like suddenly you're telling me that he's not a top 10 player in the league with the level of jungle performances we've had. Like I just don't like that idea. Like why do people like Contractz not get spots and people like Iconic do? Like I mean, Jose Dioto just comes straight in. Like we had never seen him play in top level competition. I mean, we saw him play at like Worlds play-ins where he had like some good games, some not good games. And that's a very small sample size versus top level competition. So like I feel like he should be retaining spots over some of the bottom teams. And my issue with it is that it seems like people like Contractz that are playing solid don't get spots because there's no relegation and teams don't feel like they need to actually put together solid lineups. Like they're like, whatever, let's just put this random kid in here and it's like first or last, who cares? Like there's no like it doesn't matter if we get like 5th or 6th or if we're not a bottom team, like we don't really care, you know. It's like we can either have this guy insanely pop off and get to Worlds, or we're just going to end up being a bottom team. And since there's no real punishment for being a bottom team, like they're just not going to do it. So I feel like this is the biggest issue with franchising, is how it affects like the players that are good, but not like absolutely at the top, and you know how the orgs end up treating it because they don't actually have to have any fear of relegation.
for more context on this, and I know I've shilled a lot of things before. If you want to hear more about it, I did have a post game interview with Contractz after that game. It's over on the YouTube channel, and like that was, I got a lot of cool conversation, post game conversations there, but that was the coolest one because he goes into detail about what he felt. I asked specifically, I was like, "Hey, it's been a long career, you know, and ups and downs. Did you ever think about, you know, quitting, or did you have doubt?" And he goes into it pretty honestly. So that there's some pretty cool stuff in that interview, and it's linked on my Twitter. The other half of the coin, though, is that you've got Zven K1ng, who is very good. You know, he's I would say, like, I think he's a like fifth jungler, fourth, fifth, like around there.
I think he's just okay right now, but I felt like even just like, so they played against TSM with Contractz. They looked better versus TSM than they did versus Dignitas. He's building like Night Harvester on Diana, where it's like, isn't the whole point to go proto belt to engage? And then I heard something about like maybe it was like a bug, or I don't know, man.
You're trying to kill me. No, you are. You're trying. You're bringing up Night Harvester, dude.
Yeah, Night Harvester, Diana,
man. So I was having a 3-hour call with Fudge. Probably I would say maybe like 12 hours ago, right? And we were talking about all of the problems existing in pro play, right? Because I had like an explosion moment on one of the LCK coach streams where I just lost it because 3 games in a row we saw the same mistake repeated by both teams. And it was just, it was like the Twilight Zone. No, it was Baron for soul point denial.
Yeah.
Where denying soul point is usually more important, right? If like you trade Baron and enemy gets soul point, the game becomes scary, like depending on like lane states and stuff, because you get the Baron, you bolster all your stats, you get a little bit of gold, but it's still soul point. So it gets really fucking scary depending on context. And we just saw it like 3 times, but like Night Harvester is, I feel like this is Morello versus Leandri V2. Like I don't know how to kill this fucking item. And it's like you should be able to kill it by going down like a series of questions, I think in most cases, but it just seems like you can't. But it's not even just Night Troller. It's like there's other itemizations that also go on, and we have the item rework where items are just easier, right? You have another one. I started wearing a fucking shirt on my stream, the Cookie Monster shirt, right? Because everyone has fucking cookies.
Yeah,
biscuits. Yeah, everyone has fucking biscuit delivery.
And then they sell them for 5
inventory.
gold.
They sell them for 5 gold because they have 3. Oh, everyone's looking at me again. Jesus. I can't.
Well, I mean, I can't even like understand. Like, so for Rumble, there's the argument of like, well, so here's the problem with items for like all those champions. It's that like Riftmaker is the best item out of like that subset, but then Riftmaker is like the worst build path. So you just like, you don't even want to build that fucking leeching Leer bullshit. Like that shit feels terrible to fucking build. So you end up having to like sit on components. Whereas like a lot of times, like for champions like Diana and like champions like Rumble, feels good to have the Hextech alternator. And then you like run into the situation where it's like, I mean, Proto Belt and Night Harvester, like, I think Night Harvester is like worse on most champions. I think there's champions that you can make the argument for because they can't apply Proto Belt at all. Like, they'll never be able to like go in. So like the only function of Proto Belt would be like dodging skill shots or like survivability. But I think the problem is that like both the items kind of suck. Like Proto Belt is not that great of an item either. Like you look at the numbers and like shit, it's like, bro, just give me old fucking Proto Belt for 2,500 gold. I don't want to play 3,200 or whatever for this bullshit. Like, it's, I don't know, man. It's fucking weird.
I mean, now. I mean, there's the buff, but it hasn't taken place yet. The gold off of mage items, but that won't actually. I mean, that's actually a really underappreciated buff to certain junglers, like Fiddlesticks. In some cases, Morgana. Dude, where is Morgana? By the way, you know her clear was not really affected that much. There was a Reddit thread about this. That her clear, if you still do it right, is only like 7 seconds slower. That does not justify not picking her anymore. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It wasn't why you were picking her in the first place. It wasn't because of 7 seconds. It doesn't make any sense.
Sure. I mean, I just wonder if people literally can even do the clear enough to like, you know, like I'm sure that people have tried it, but I wonder if they actually are practiced enough for like the people that didn't play at MSI to actually stand in the right place and do the clear. Like that seems like something that people just wouldn't even do the due diligence of doing, because at MSI people didn't even know where to stand. Like they're playing in the tournament, so you think like in scrims, like these people that are like maybe Morgana could work here, they play it. Like I wonder if they even know where to stand. But I mean, I don't know. Like yeah, I'm not sure about Morgana. I haven't played it myself since the nerf. I would have to see if that's actually true. If it is actually only 7 seconds slower. If it's only 7 seconds slower, it should still be very viable.
It should still be widely played. I mean, there's just so many things going on. Me, Nemesis, Crowny, Fudge, others, right? Like on the coach streams. I don't know what guests you've had. We've begun talking about how repetitive everything is getting, but also how like little thought and actual focus seems to be going into it by most pros on like trying to actually do things differently. And I think that that's also attributing and causing the not burnout. I don't know what you would call it. Dissatisfaction, I guess, from stagnation. Yeah, stagnation, oh my god, I can't speak. Dissatisfaction with viewers. And like one of the things that I said that might well, I don't know. I think Riot needs to figure out some way to spice up the game, because it's very apparent that most pro players, when I say most, I don't know, I'd come up with a random number like 90% plus are just there because the money that they're being paid. I don't think that they like the game, which I think shows. I think it's reflected in how much they play solo queue or like how they talk about the game on stream. They don't stream. They can't be asked to do social media. They don't brand. The only reason these fucks are even like doing anything. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm talking about the ones that are like just blatantly fucking lazy. They don't care about the game. They're literally just there is to get the paycheck, right? But you do have players that are hungry, that sometimes are even gate kept or they're kept out from being able to play, right? Or like nepotism runs rampant and all this other stuff. It's sickening in a way. It really, really is. And it's like these people are also a byproduct of why the game is being held back. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
I don't know. What I would assume is that, you know, the streamers' negativity on co-streams towards the players, you know, on Double If's co-stream, my co-stream, is really just holding everyone back. You know, like the players actually just are afraid to perform because you know, it's just the streamer's fault. So
true.
That's
I agree.
There's a lot of external pressure.
You wait, Dom.
Yeah.
How many days till July? 2? 2. I'm coming for you. I'm coming.
Oh no. Oh, I'm getting canceled. Oh no.
Oh jeez.
You could do it too. You just say that I'm like homophobic or something, and boom, I'm gone. Like you don't even need to post a screenshot. People will be like, "Dom was," you know that Dom's toxic, right? Like, of course he is. Like, you know, like I would just be
start inventing. They start inventing takes like that never happened. Like,
people do that shit. It doesn't matter. You just have to say it convincingly enough.
Yeah,
I watched an episode of Facecheck where Dom just called Ellis the F slur just in the middle of the episode. It was just fucked up, and people were like, "Yeah, I was there too." That definitely.
Oh wow!
happened.
Can I get a timestamp? Nothing.
Yeah, can I get a clip? It's like, you know, LS deleted that VOD, but I mean, you know, I can't
it's there
find it
somewhere.
right now.
It's
Just
the
trust
internet.
me.
With that, we were speaking about lack of innovation. There was a game, and I don't have a graphic for it, but there was a game that I thought was interesting in draft. It was the 100 Thieves Immortal game, where we got, I think, and I was blowing this one up. This is the first time in the LCS, other than like 2014 spring qualifiers #1, thanks Wikipedia, that we had Lee Sin bot. We had a Lee Sin bot lane played by FBI there. This was the Gnar, Diana, Azir, Lee Sin, Senna into Aurelia, Gwen, Set,
Karma,
Ezreal, Karma. Yes. So that draft seemed fun. And I feel like these are two coaches that would be willing to do that. Immortals, as we've hit on before, power, friendship, and getting the most out of what they can. And Gilhoto trying things. And we know that Reaper is confident enough and that he does things game by game and is willing to push the boundaries of anything that he's doing, and we got that. So what did you make of a team composition like this and a draft like this, where they kind of went back and forth in terms of what teams were trying to do here?
Yeah, I really like this draft. Just to start, because I mean, you could tell that there was like elements of thought where people are trying to gain advantages by flexing picks around, which is really viable in the meta. So the Lee Sin came out, right? And then the standard counter to a Lee Sin lane is set. That's what people are picking right now around the world. So there was like that interaction coming in. So then once the Gwen was picked, so it was like Gwen set were picked, well, Nara can lane into both of those, right? So that was like the response was like, okay, we have Lee Sin, which might, like, they were trying to make it seem like it could go mid. And Nara's fine into Gwen, Nara's fine into set as well. So they picked the Nara. So then Immortals decided to flex the Gwen to jungle in order to counter pick that Gnar with Aurelia. So it's like, I like that there was actually this like back and forth where people were abusing like the fact that so many picks were flexible. Now, I'm not sure how the Ezreal Karma lane would go into Lee Sin Senna. I would assume that it's not going to look as even as it did in this game. The saddest thing was that we didn't even get to see the draft play out with like the counter picks and things like that because of the fact that it was that level 3 fight in the blue side jungle for Immortals, right. And then both solo laners lost their flashes and both of them died.
Yeah,
and
two someday.
Two
someday.
Yeah. So like the Aurelia that's supposed to shit all over the Gnar then is laning without flash and without TP into a 2-kill Gnar. And when he went for the all-in at like level 6, Gnar lived with 10 HP. That's not happening if he's not 2-0 up. I mean, obviously you could argue that he'd play the lane different, but based on what I've seen from Someday, I don't think he really would. So this was actually one of the most interesting drafts where people were making use of flex picks. We haven't seen this in LCS before. I think this is probably the only game where we've seen like this amount of counters and like moving picks around and all that stuff. So I personally like the draft. It just sucks that like the way the game turned out didn't get to show anything with how the draft actually should have went.
The draft process is interesting, and I like on social media I don't see it talked about enough, right? I mean, these are the things that I think League a few years from now, I mean, if we're still around, listen, the MMO, you know, it's coming. But
jeez,
look, actually, I just want to go on a little side tangent right now. The responsibility of all of us right now is to build our brands with League to transition into the MMO. That's it. But anyways,
okay. We're gonna start a Facecheck guild. You know, like we'll be in the MMO with our guild.
Man, now that we've called it out, we have to make sure we get the name like as soon as it drops. Otherwise, there's gonna be some schmuck that takes it from.
This is no, but okay. So that aside, like, it doesn't get talked about enough, right? But I think that in theory, a few years from now, this should be standardized drafting, because it adds a skill expression to the draft, way more than what we have right now. And it definitely makes certain picks that are like viable, like Morgana, right? Morgana is one of them. It makes them a lot more. Yeah, it makes it a massive flex, and so it doesn't make any sense why it's not the case.
I'm looking to see if anyone tweeted.
In terms of like what I look for. No, I was just gonna say like it was nice to see that there was like at least this draft that I was like, okay, that's like at least an interesting draft, and you can tell that the coaches are both thinking like on stage, which is really rare because I mean the Golden Guardians draft like that just triggered me more than anything else. When you literally have a set, you have a Kalista on your team, you have a set already locked in, right? The enemy team goes Ezreal, Leona bot lane, and you don't flex the set to support and then counterpick one of the solo lanes. Like the fact that they didn't do that was beyond triggering to me. But in this game, they actually had 3 different like interactions, right? There was like the Lee Sin picked, and then there was a set into the Lee Sin. Then there was like the Gwen picked. So then the enemy team picked the Gnar into both the solo laners, Gwen and Set. And then there was the Aurelia that came in to counter the Gnar, and the Gwen put jungle. Actually, there was 4. And the last one was the Lee Sin flex to bot lane so that Lee Sin didn't have to lane mid into the set. Like that's at least like 4 tiers deep. Like we're actually getting into the shit there. Like respect.
Yep.
I will say that I think on the broadcast, it was Azale that popped off about it. He was the one that in the post game tweeted, not tweeted about it, gave an in-depth kind of like as in-depth as they can before they have to kick to the analyst desk to cover it, as well as I think Freak tweeted out about it. But you're right, there weren't as many people, at least discussing how open the possibilities could be with a five-way flex pick of a Lee Sin, and then the value of that, because and maybe it is because even with the nerfs to Jungle Morgana, people are like, oh, okay, he's nerfed, that's it, and or she's nerfed, that's it, and that is and it was a tackle to that specific thing, so maybe they're not as up to date on it. There's definitely a lot to research and uncover to be on the cutting edge of it, and if that's the case, you would be on a team and coaching. All right, let's dive into our top teams real quick, because LS's time at the PC Bong is running out, so make sure you hit him with the Twitch primes. Any primers in the chat? Let's go with holy crap, you put the PC Bong timer graphic up.
I can't even. Oh my god. Okay. All right. I'm just being bullied at this point. Honestly, like this is.
Okay.
God.
You can. Yeah, you're a record-holding little league shortstop player, so you know you can take a little bit of bullying.
Yeah, represent your city, man. You got it. Okay, let's take a look at Cloud9. They made their swap back on over to Zven from King. A lot of discussion was about, hey, he's a better player and stuff. Talking to both Zven and Fudge, and then some other pundits, they said, hey, we all weren't playing well at that time, and King can't cover up those issues that we were having the way that Zven does. He just, in terms of shot calling, they go 2-1 this week. What did you make of the move back to Zven? And what do you make about King's time on the LCS squad here, Dom?
I don't know. I was not very impressed with King. I felt like his damage output in fights was really low, and it just seemed like he played relatively scared. It seems like his when he had that opportunity, the way that he kind of saw it was okay, I'm trying not to fuck up this championship team instead of just really trying to, show what he was worth. I mean, I don't think he egregiously entered any games, but I just thought he would be better from everything that I've heard about him, from what I have watched him in academy finals, proving ground finals and things like that. I just thought that he would have a better performance. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough spot to be put in because, you're expected to win when you're put on a championship team. But I still think that he underperformed, at least in my eyes, given what my perception of him as a player was going into it.
God, that's just tough. What'd you make of the changes here, Ellis?
I mean, I think King, yeah, I agreed with Dom. I thought King actually underperformed. I had a different idea of him coming into LCS. Obviously, Zven being back now is, I think, within the best interest of the team. So I think that, going forward, that'll definitely be good. However, yes, I thought he would have fared a lot better, especially because the environment that he's in, the teammates that he had, you can't really ask for much more in this region, right? You can't really ask for more resources as an AD carry right now. You have Fudge in top lane, right? You have Vulcan as your support. And then you have Blabber and Perks in jungle and mid. I mean, if you can't find ways to show up, then that's sort of an issue. And I mean, I wouldn't say that he's outright the reason that they were losing. However, in a lot of fights, he was definitely missing out on damage. His positioning, mouse, camera control, everything was just very, very lackluster compared to what I had envisioned might have been the case when he initially came on.
Sure. I just want to, because it was such a big talking point, I wanted to make sure that we identified why. Hey, why did we feel like this change from Zven to King didn't feel as great as we thought it was going to, because I think no one's going to disagree. Like, hey, the results are clearly not the same. And even in chatting with Fudge, he was like, yeah, I think we're a better team with Zven, but not necessarily because Zven was just a better laner, a better player. We all played poorly, but Zven can cover up some of those issues. So I just wanted to caveat that for King's sake, because that felt very important from the organization to cover it up as they move forward. Other big swap that happened here in the top 4 is Armao. So all lost in the sauce with the Jatt and Jatt resignation and the press conference was that Armao comes into the starting lineup for Santorin, and the team feels like they don't miss a huge beat here. Hopefully Santorin can figure out the health issues. That super sucks. I feel for him. I wish nothing but the best for him. How did we make of Armao slotting back on in to this Team Liquid squad?
His ID sucks.
Okay, Last Shadow.
Oh, fuck
Yeah,
yeah. God damn it. God damn it. When your name rhymes with mayonnaise, I think that we have, I mean, I don't know. Anyways, him coming back in, everything looks fine. I mean, the Jatt stuff, I think that is I think that we're not done with the Jatt stuff. I think that stuff will probably end up developing probably more, or who knows, right? Jensen had his interview where he just talked about some stuff where he said that some stuff just feels like it's missing and whatnot. Santorin's absence is huh?
No, I was saying their top laner is probably what he was referring to about stuff that was missing. He's just saying, like, his top laner's jungler are fucking missing. Like, that is true. Thank you.
No, all right,
That's our
but
best
no, there you go. So I don't know. I'm not totally. I mean, I think that he's serviceable inside of the jungle. But one of the things that I was sort of like realizing, right? I was going over NA junglers, and it's like you have Spica and then you have Blabber, right? That I think are sort of being talked about everywhere. You have Closer as well. But then when you think about where NA junglers stand comparatively to LEC, it's like our best ones are struggling to break into the top 6 in Europe. I mean, that's how I perceive it anyway. So
top 6 in
even
Europe
like
right now, like, because like, is Yanko's top 6 in Europe right now? Like, I feel like that's kind of hard to say based on the games he's played in Summer Split. Bwipo's,
I mean, you have
top 6 in Europe.
Yeah, you have Bwipo. So I mean, there's Elyoya inspired Bwipo, Yankos, right off the top of my head, and then
How about
obviously
that Treats guide? Does he count as NA?
Oh my lord! I mean, then you can go down the list of other junglers too, and even some ones that aren't even playing anymore.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, Razork, and you have Gilius. Would be another one. Selfmade.
Yep.
Selfmade is just a superior version of Blabber, pretty much. I mean, that's what I just envision. So it's definitely strange. I don't think this is the biggest of Team Liquid's woes, right? I think that also I just want to touch on CoreJJ's like interviews where he says that he's gonna win Worlds or something. I think you can appreciate the words, but does he really not recognize the level of all of his teammates or like the level that they're playing at? I don't know. That one just strikes me as so weird.
Yeah. I don't know about this TL team. I mean, number one, like, I think the Jatt situation is so like misread by the community. I mean, even with like information that is out there, you should have like kind of an idea of what probably happened. And like, realistically, a coach is not resigning 3 weeks into the split when they got second place in spring if things are going well, and it's just simply like some miscommunication or something like that is a crazy change. But I mean, it's another thing where I guess TL actually had the best PR because people actually believed it, you know? I guess you can just sit in front of a camera and be like, I'm just going to be really transparent here, and then just say like roundabout things that don't make sense, obviously contradict yourself, and then the community will eat it up because they have the memory of a goldfish and can't determine like what he's saying that are just straight up lies, or what makes sense. I mean, one of the most obvious ones, if you just looked at the situation, was the fact that they said the organization Jatt came out, said the Alfari thing wasn't a spur of the moment decision, and then in the press conference they say there was a situation that happened after the TSM game that was handled really badly that led to Alfari's benching. So it's like, well, that can't both be the case. Like, that is literally just one of you is fucking lying, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I guess nah, never mind. They probably wouldn't lie, so it must have just been some miscommunication from the organization.
We all three of us have been on teams before that we never lie to each other.
This is why everyone keeps stressing communication whenever you get some insight in VODs, Dom. I mean, you should know about this.
Yes.
It's not just a player thing. Yeah.
My bad, I was lying. He does actually have Flash.
Wait, that actually happens all the time.
Or when you lie about enemy flashed, right? But you just actually got solo killed, but you want to make it seem like it's not as bad.
Yeah, and then I come to your lane and I will type at you for the rest of the game after that.
Yeah, this is actually what happens on teams too. It happens all the time. So for you and your solo queue games, don't feel bad. You're playing like an LCS pro.
Oh god, it's just the more you think about it, the more disgusting it is, right? So they'll say things that are it's really like dealing with somebody who's an abuser, a master manipulator, when you listen to the way that they phrase things, right? Because they literally say we had a discussion about should Alfari take time off, and maybe we should have been more pushy a month prior, right? And then they say, okay, and then we decided to play Alfari. And then there's the blow up, and then they decide to bench Alfari, but they try to make it seem like, oh, well, that was the discussion a month ago, which is just it's almost there. And to a stupid person, they'll be like, oh, well, they did talk about it a month ago, but it was there was two isolated things that now they're just falling back on to make themselves look better, right? They did have a discussion. Should Alfari take time off? The result was no. They didn't want to proceed with that. And then there was a blow up that happened, and then Alfari was benched. There was two isolated situations that they're trying to make the same to make themselves look better. I mean, I just hate shit like that because it's just a way to cover your ass, but it doesn't, but it's I feel like people should be able to detect that instantly, and that should be the number one thing that's being talked about, and no one even was mentioning it. People were like, damn, it's crazy that Jatt's out. Man.
And that's PR, everybody. That is PR, and it just feels like that is all we're gonna get too, right? It is difficult in situations like that any other information is going to go public. So, by the way, broken by one of us here. Well done, Dom. Dropping that news for everybody.
I mean, look
I woke up to it. That was sick.
Look, it was to the point where it wasn't just people within the team or people within the coaching staff. It was to the point where people from just the TL organization, people that work in all these different departments, would just messaging me about this shit. That's how big it was. It was crazy. Come on, man. Come on.
I want to talk about. Oh, Jesus Christ, the PC bomb. One of the things that Doublelift actually said on his coach stream, I think it was yesterday, right? Really quickly, where he talked about how no pro players stream anymore, and this is a direct reason that LCS doesn't really have a lot of connection with the viewers, right? I mean, you look at who's the most recent come up personality in LCS. I feel like it's Fudge, right?
Speaka, maybe?
Fudge is Spica's doing a really good job with TSM Legends. Yeah. I completely agree with that. He's doing a great job with TSM Legends. And then you have Fudge, who is, I mean, he's tweeting. He's on every LCK co stream, and I do 5 days a week. He was on LEC, he was on MSI. He's just randomly around, and he's engaging with people. He goes into Twitter threads, he goes on Reddit, and he actually replies and stuff. That's pretty cool. Right? But pros don't do that anymore. Okay, I'm getting looked at again. Go ahead. Take it away. They're staring at me.
Yeah, I mean, there are no like personalities anymore. I mean, the thing is that right now, I feel like the reason why people don't want to make public appearances is because the region just looks so bad. Like every team just looks so bad that it's like it's really hard. And I can say this as like a former player. Like I never wanted to go in front of a camera. Like I would not stream for an entire split if my team was fucking losing. Like you don't want to lose, have your team just like be dog shit, and then get on stream and have every question in your chat be like, so why do you think like this happened? Like asking a bunch of questions you can't answer. It just feels not worth it. So I mean, yeah, it's just I feel like that's kind of a product of the situation. I mean, you can look at like even Europe, right? The only people that stream in Europe consistently feels like the people that are actually winning. You know, like if Niski's like wins a couple weeks in a row, he's gonna be streaming. If he loses 3 weeks in a row, you're not seeing shit from that guy. Like he's just going dark. So yeah, I mean,
or Jankos who's just won like forever, and like it doesn't matter. Yeah. He'll still stream. God, I'm still thinking on it, LS. Like, who is prior to this split? Let's even throw that away. Prior to this split, which player built up their profile in the LCS through streaming, or even helped their profile through streaming? That wasn't Double Lift. Like Sneaky, maybe. Like I don't know. So I think that's just something else to think about. Like, chat, help me out here. We got Sneaky, Core. Yeah, actually, Core did that a ton, and that was prior to the the streams. Hello, update us. Update everybody.
Phone.
Whoa.
All right.
Hello, I'm on my phone.
The countdown was actually real.
Oh, it was actually a real countdown. What the fuck?
All right, well, I'm hold on. I don't have any time. It's so awkward if I just keep sitting at this black computer. I gotta leave the PC bomb, guys.
Okay. All right. Well, give us your quick thoughts on
Jesus.
Actually, never mind. Half of that joke.
It wasn't a joke, was it? All right, hold on.
All right.
Honestly, this wasn't forced, by the way. This wasn't forced. I'm doing this on my own.
All right.
Oh my god.
That's a pretty good second half of the joke. Give us your thoughts on TSM and 100 Thieves, LS.
TSM and 100 Thieves. Honestly, I mean, Power Friendship's broken, dGon, okay? It's just broken. But no, 100 Thieves, I think, have been wildly outperforming expectations, pretty much in general. I think Abadage is playing like the best mid laner in the region, and I think that having that presence in mid, as well as everything else they have going on, is definitely super beneficial for them. So, I mean, I think 100 Thieves are looking pretty good. Cloud9's looking like they fell off a cliff, you know. And TSM, I don't know what to think about TSM. They honestly, I mean, they genuinely seem to win because they seem to be connected. And I don't mean connected like CLG is, but it seems like they at least have some sort of common idea in the later parts of the game. But then their individual pieces aren't as bad as the rest of the league. So it's like this invert of CLG where they have really good players and then they're connected. Whereas CLG is trying to they're trying to pass off a convenience store meal as like a Michelin star, and it's just not working.
Dom, you want to weigh in here?
Yeah, sure. So I think 100 Thieves, like, so
I'm going down.
Oh no!
Like
I mean, so I think TSM and 100 Thieves. Oh Jesus!
Yeah.
I think 100 Thieves and TSM are just like it's weird. It feels like they just defaulted into being the top two teams in NA. Like the way that I see it is Cloud9 and TL just imploded and did weird roster moves and got worse as a result. Now they're just behind. Whereas like 100 Thieves and TSM just like stayed consistent. I don't think they're playing particularly like well, either of them. Yeah, I mean, I feel like TSM throws games constantly. I think 100 Thieves has really, really bad mistakes. They have so many unforced errors in their play, but they're generally just better like individually than other teams, so they win out. So I mean, I don't have like that much confidence. I feel like if either of these teams go into Worlds, I don't feel like either of them can get out of groups. I mean, it just there's just big issues within like their own teams within how often they throw the game, right? Like if you look at TSM and 100 Thieves, both those teams will at least one time have every single game, they'll have at least one egregious error that the enemy team should, if the enemy team was a top tier team, would win the game off of. So even the games where 100 Thieves and TSM play well, they still would lose until they're able to consistently close out a game without mistakes. But it just feels like there's always like the TSM versus TL thing, right? Like there's always that thing where Azir and Nautilus are trying to kill the Sterax Lee Sin top lane 2v1, and they just both die. TL starts Baron, gets another pick, and then just because TL like doesn't recognize that they're going to be on Soul Point or they should go to Mountain, because TL doesn't recognize that and ends up getting caught themselves, then TSM gets Baron and win the game. Like that is, they won off a mistake. Like that's not going to fly later on. Yeah. At least I hope that's not going to fly later on. I hope we actually get like a competitive world championship. So I just hope that like, even though other teams don't punish them, they're able to improve from that point to the point where like in playoffs, we see some clean games at least. But yeah, it's they're weird teams for sure.
There's definitely conversation about their ascendancy due to not necessarily they've changed things, but everyone else descending, Dig, Cloud9, TL. But I do want to highlight the fact that they are stepping up in terms of their, I guess, we got to see the draft prowess from 100 Thieves and the practice and the scouting that is happening on that front end. That when they need to execute, they can. But as you said, also unforced errors, right? So it's like, oh God, now we're behind, or now we're not snowballing as hard as we need to. But when they need to, they're the ones that have been stepping up compared to everybody else. FBI is hitting great form right now. Closer Abadage looking like the best in the league. So,
but they still have like. So I think Abadage does look like the best player in the league. But even while looking like the best player in the league, like he'll have such crazy errors that he'll just get away with. In our region, like I think of the Dignitas game, right, where he survives the gank to Gwen and Lee Sin, and then he literally, like, while the Gwen is still literally in his lane, like right in front of him, he just walks directly back in, starts autoing, and just dies. Like that's a gank that ends up working. Same thing happened with FBI, where he gets ganked and then he just like walks directly back into the set, gets flashed on, and dies. Like they do this type of stuff consistently. Someday he got solo killed as Gnar versus Renekton, which is like, how many times have you played this matchup this season? Like, how is this still happening where you're unaware of how to play the game with these picks? So, it's the reason why I don't really have that much confidence in 100 Thieves because, like, I just assume that some team will be good enough to at least win games where they make these types of errors eventually. If not, like, shit, maybe 100 Thieves win a championship.
Well, there you have it. LS, anything else to add and to close things off now that you are mobile?
I'm a free man right now. I'm outside without anything around me. I imagine this is what a lot of people are going to feel like come off season. You know what I mean?
Oh, Jesus. All right.
We don't even have to wait for off season. Some people have already been like, oh, the most changes in any split ever, I think, here in the LCS. Maybe there's a split where a team got suspended, or maybe like when CLG sent their team to boot camp in Korea and they fielded a whole secondary roster.
And I smacked them. Yeah, true.
Yeah, that was a lot of changes for not a lot of gain. Kind of like what we're seeing right now with some of these teams. I know you're on the run, LS, so let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Dom, what final thoughts as we close the chapter on a crazy week 4 and looking forward to week 5?
All I'm saying is we need to see more roster swaps, like Cody Sun coming in for loss, something like that. Like, yeah, let's just get everyone swapped. Let's try to go for the full 10-team roster swap in one split. I'm down.
All right, 10-man roster returning to an LCS near you, like what was it? Echo Fox and their 10-man roster. LS, closing thoughts.
I honestly have no idea what to really expect for NA, because it seems like
everything changes way too fast and there's no sense of stability in the region, right? So even trying to predict anything, I mean, you go back 1 month and everyone thinks Cloud9 is just going to come back and dominate, right? Because of MSI and whatnot, but here we are. Go back 2 weeks and, you know, Team Liquid, or 3 weeks, right? Team Liquid, apparently they're on fire. So it's too unstable. I think trying to predict this is it's just way too volatile. I don't know. This is like, yeah, I don't know.
It is making it difficult to stay consistent here, which is why you got to stay tuned in every week. We'll be back next week with another episode of Facecheck. You can catch these two co-streaming all the major regions, all the important matches. You can catch me now doing a lot of the post-game interviews, and I had a sit-down interview with Finn, breaking something tomorrow as well, and then I'm looking to have another sit-down interview with a coach of a team that is on the ascendancy. So make sure to stay locked over at the YouTube channel for VENN Esports. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate all of you. Please be safe, be nice to each other, and we'll catch you next week for Facecheck. Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel dGon Gonzalez, esport expert of Esports. If you want to try to catch up with me and my big brain knowledge and everything that I provide to every broadcast I'm ever on, click subscribe and watch yourself some of these videos right here. They're by people that are even smarter than me. I know. I didn't think so either, but they are, and you should watch them.